Hey everybody, welcome to the Brick Trot Homestead. Tonight I'm going to talk about the Tromboncino Squash, also known as Zuchetta Rampicante. Before we start, can you please hit the like button and hit subscribe? We always forget to do this, but you know what? It counts. Your like and your subscribe counts so much. And you're not losing anything. You get to see us all the time. So please make sure you hit those buttons. As you can see, I am under our main arch. As soon as you enter the garden, this is the first thing we wanted your eye to catch. What our goal was to have it full of spaghetti, butternut, and Tromboncino squash. Well, the only thing that made it, well actually I'll say two things, but the only thing that made it on this arch was the Tromboncino squash. The butternut and spaghetti squash immediately got hit by borers, like immediately. There's a few dead plants under there, but yeah, they did not do so well. So what do I mean only the Tromboncino? Because you see birdhouse gourds. We did not plant those by the trellis at all. We didn't even plant them this year. They kind of regrew from last year from dead gourds that were on the floor, and I had seedlings everywhere. Those and the loofah. They found their way up the trellis, and I kind of thought it looked kind of cool, so I ended up leaving it. I cut all the other bits of the vines, not where they get the nutrients, but the other runners, so we didn't have to worry about any more gourds. So this is totally fine for me. Now, back to the Tromboncino. Check out these huge leaves. Pretty stellar. Look at the small little Tromboncinos. And look at my favorite one. This Tromboncino was kind of like a mutated one. It was supposed to be two, but ended up being one. Pretty cool. It's my Siamese Tromboncino twins. I know it may look a little funky, but I think it's awesome, and I'm just gonna leave it there until it turns completely the orangish tannish color that you can overwinter. It's a pretty big squash, so I want to make sure I can save it for when we want to make our stews or even chilies. I add squash to pretty much anything. Stir fries, stews, chilies, soups, hash in the morning. We add it to eggs, whatever you want to add it to, this is perfect for. You can also pick them green, just like you can spaghetti and butternut. If you're new to the channel, you can see on my past videos, I love picking winter squash green. You can get them all through the summer green, and they taste just like a mix between zucchini and yellow squash. And I cook them just like I would those. We have 1, 2, 3, probably about 5 on the vine right now, but I've already harvested probably, I want to say about 8 or 9. We are in the beginning of August, August 3rd, and I'm super happy with it. It did get hit by borers, so just because we've been harvesting a lot of squash doesn't mean we haven't had a few hiccups. Like I said, I planted this because it was borer resistant. Okay, so it did get hit by vine borers. If you don't know what a vine borer is, it's about this size. It's red and black, and it flies around looking for your squash so it can lay its one egg on it. And just because you see one egg doesn't mean that's the only egg. It will go to each little piece of your branch and lay an egg if it has it, or it'll bring its friends. What the vine borer's eggs does, it opens up, and once the larvae gets inside of your vine, it's toast. All of my other squash got hit. Like, I don't even grow zucchini and yellow squash much anymore because I get maybe 1 or 2 and it's done. The squash borer got it. It takes about 3 weeks for the vine borer to grow into the larvae and destroy everything. So I don't get much. But this has been so tough. And it's gotten hit. I'll actually show you some of the damage. Okay, so not only has it gotten all of this vine borer damage, look, you see that sawdust right there? That means a borer has gone through and it's burrowed in, okay? But look, still the same stem that I started out with, and it's still tough and it hasn't gone down. But I have cut a few leaves that I assumed that the borer went into to try to prevent it. I highly recommend you do that. If you are suspecting the borer damage and all that and seeing it, just go ahead and cut some of the leaves. That won't do anything to the plant. It'll be okay as long as it has some leaves to get do what it needs to do. I mean, it'll be fine. And as you can see, all these stems see borer damage. And not only do you have to worry about the borers, like with any other squash, you have to worry about squash bugs. If you see any of these eggs like this in like a cluster on your plant, those are from squash bugs. And what squash bugs do is they hang out on top of your vines and your leaves, and they suck up all the good stuff. And that can also damage your plant as well, and it'll have less nutrients to make our squash. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's a dot here and there's a dot right here. Those are vine borer eggs. So what I do is I usually just squish them. I know that sounds really gross and it probably looks gross to you. You can always wash your hand. But this is how I ensure that this thing is not going to grow and it is not going to burrow in my stem. So I forgot to mention about the pruning of the leaves, because you think of the damage and you think you've got borers. I actually made a huge mistake. I pruned some leaves and I was talking to my husband, I think. No, I think it was one of my children. Talking to one of my children, and snapped an entire branch off. I mean, it was probably, it was most of this trellis. I was so upset. I didn't know how I was going to save that. And it was just a healthy branch. What I did, I took the branch, took some of the leaves off, and I buried the stem. The branch that I had, I actually did this in 3 separate parts of the yard. Each part had about this much a branch. So this one started off about this big because I broke them up. And look how healthy it is. I'm getting little tromboncino on it. And the only downside to this is it's gonna crawl on the ground. But I'm still gonna get fruit. So if you've seen my video in the past about spaghetti squash, about how I kept my harvest going even with the vine borers, I just kept burying the stems. I would bury them and they would reroot, and I would just be blessed, and the borers could not handle it. So a little advice with the borers. So if you're thinking about growing a squash like this, I highly recommend it. Even with the damage from the vine borers, which I know I keep going over about, but you know, if you get hit with them, you get hit with them. It is so frustrating. This can withstand all that. Not quite resistant, but you know what? It's a strong plant and it can fight back. Thank y'all so much for watching, and happy gardening. God bless.